When we talk about absolute value functions, we're really just talking about linear functions that are reflected back over the x-axis, okay? So think about the most basic linear function, y equals x, okay? And then think about y equals negative x. Notice how what we are doing is we're, one, putting a negative sign in front of the x, but also we're doing this transformation where this original function is getting reflected over the x-axis, and so it creates this V shape, kind of like an hourglass, okay? And so an absolute value function is basically the positive half from, the x-axis and up. So look at the absolute value function. Absolute value of x, if I take away my linear functions, this is the absolute value function, okay? Because the absolute value of a number automatically just takes it and turns it positive. So anything that we plug in down here wouldn't be able to go into the negative y's because it has to come out positive. So if we're asked to graph an absolute value function by making a table, the most basic absolute value function looks like this. F of x equals the absolute value of x. The absolute value function like this is going to have a center at the origin, the vertex at the origin. So if we're making our table, plug in some points, 0, 1, 2, negative 1, negative 2. The points that we're going to get spit out are going to be positive, 2, 1, 0, 1, and 2. Okay, and so our graph is going to end up looking like this, like I just showed you in Desmos. And you can keep copying your points all the way out. Okay, and then when you draw your lines, you should have arrows going out and up like this. Okay, and then make sure that your vertex is touching. Mine's a little messy. That's the big idea. Okay, and so we can move this absolute value function around by adding or subtracting numbers, by multiplying or dividing by numbers. So if we go back to Desmos, you can graph the absolute value function in Desmos by typing ABS-X, or you can also find it by clicking on the keyboard and using the absolute value symbols. So this example is x plus 4. We're exiting out of the absolute value symbols, and then we are subtracting 2. And so this graph is moved left 4 and down 2, but it's still that same V shape. So when we are graphing this function, instead of having our corner, our point at the origin, it's going to be over at 4, negative 2, and then from there we will graph our function. So it will end up looking like this. And then when you draw your lines, they should have arrows on them, and they should meet at the vertex. Okay. We can also multiply the absolute value function by a number. So let's take a look at what this looks like in Desmos. 1/2 times the absolute value of x. And it's still a V shape, but notice how it looks like it's wider. It's wider because we're multiplying by this fraction out front. So we still have our vertex at 0, 0. And then you can think of this 1/2 out front kind of like a slope. So move from the vertex up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. And that's how we can generate points. So I'm going to graph the vertex at 0, 0 and move up 1 over 2. Up 1, excuse me, I moved up 2 over 2. Up 1 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 over 2. And then we can keep going. Okay, so we still have this nice shape. It's a V shape showing up. When you draw your lines, make sure you have arrows, and it will look something like this. That's a very basic intro into absolute value functions. We will play around more with multiplying by different numbers, with adding and subtracting different numbers in the next section, all about transformations.